Hello and welcome to the 15-minute show, part of the Arsenal Therapy podcast. I'm your host, Adam Keys, and welcome to the show. We've obviously had a couple of weeks off as I've been on holiday and Farhan has had a baby. So exciting times for the Arsenal Therapy podcast. And it's great to be back talking to everyone today. And as always in the world of Arsenal, there's some controversy and there's some updates that we can go through. So I think the key story of today is Aaron Ramsdale's dad's interview with the Highbury Squad. A very surprising interview, and one that, look, I think if most channels had the opportunity to have Ramsdale's dad on talking, they would take full advantage of that. The amount of hype that it's built this morning and last night is absolutely massive. For me, I understand why the channel have him on. Absolutely. It's a chance to talk to someone very, very connected to the club and to a player and get that insight. However, from Ramsdale's point of view and his father's point of view, this is an extremely ill-advised interview. I want to make it clear, he does say that we should back David Raya. He says it's not Raya's fault and he's a good keeper. He's a good guy. And those things are all great. But look, throughout this interview, he talks about Ramsdale losing his smile. There's questions about who's the better keeper, fans thinking Ramsdale's better. At this point, we have to look at this situation and we have to back who's playing for Arsenal right now. I don't care who's sitting on the bench, who's not influencing the game. The player that we need to be backing is the one that's impacting things on the pitch. Whether you agree with this situation or not, David Raya is currently Arsenal's #1 goalkeeper, and he's a fantastic keeper. I've said all along, I don't believe he's any better than Ramsdale. I also don't believe he's any worse. I think the two of them are very, very similar, and that's what makes this situation quite difficult for fans to swallow. However, the key thing is the two of them have got very different traits and strengths. So Raya is much better on the ball. He is a player that will follow out those instructions. He will invite the press, which is clearly something Arteta wants to see at Arsenal. And Ramsdale has said in interviews before that he's had to compromise with Arteta on how high he plays up the pitch, how he invites players to him. And those are things that do impact who a manager goes with. And if you read books like Gaz's book back in the day, when Bobby Robson used to go mad at him because he would basically go out and do what he wanted on the pitch. And for Robson, that wasn't good enough. That, yes, he entertained everyone. The crowd loved him, all those things. But ultimately, your job is to carry out what the coach wants you to do. And we know with Arteta, everything is micromanaged to the nth degree. And that is something that we need to accept. And there's clearly a reason that the club have sought out Raya and brought him in when we had an absolutely top-class keeper that we had just given a long-term contract to. But for me, and I have been pretty blunt about this on Twitter, we're talking about elite level athletes. The Premier League is the absolute pinnacle of sport right now. And Aaron Ramsdale is playing for a club that finished second in the league. So he is playing for a club that is right up at the very top end of elite level sport. And his job should be to do is talking on the training pitch. And the timing of this interview probably couldn't be worse for Ramsdale because Raya is eligible to play against Brentford because of the conditions of his loan, which means that Ramsdale will be starting in goal for Arsenal. So he has got an opportunity coming up in 2 weeks' time to actually put on that shirt and go out and show what he can do. People will say Ramsdale doesn't need to show what he can do. He's proved it over the last couple of years. I've repeatedly said on this show, Ramsdale has made a lot of errors for Arsenal, but he's a young goalkeeper and we've backed him and you could see the improvement in his game. We could see what he brings to the team. But there isn't a player in that 11 that doesn't need to prove himself week after week after week. And I include Bukayo Saka in that, Gabriel Martinelli, Martin Ødegaard, William Saliba, Declan Rice, all those players. They're going out on the pitch, they're working their socks off on the training ground, and they are getting better every week. There is absolutely no room for complacency. We don't need someone that's a good keeper. We need someone that will play with their feet, do what Arteta wants, in terms of our build-up. And the key thing is people will say, I want my keeper making saves. Arsenal's saves have gone from roughly 3 per game to less than 1.5 per game since Leno left Arsenal to now. So having a keeper who can make saves is only a small part of what they do. They're making very, very few saves per game. And we're now in an era with this Arsenal team that we're very, very dominant and the importance of a goalkeeper who is playing with their feet can't be underrated. So the numbers don't lie here. The keepers are making a lot less saves. And look, Raya's not perfect either. Raya has already made numerous mistakes. But the point is, he is the current number one at Arsenal. He is the player with the shirt. He's the one that Arteta trusts. And as fans, we shouldn't be knocking a player like David Raya and really picking him out and giving this constant Ramsdale loving to just because we prefer a player more. Over the last 2 years, we've built a really strong connection with Ramsdale. He's been a key part of the rebuild of the club. He's been one of the reasons that we've been able to get ourselves back to where we were. And it's been a long time since Arsenal were competing for these kind of trophies and at this end of the table. So there is going to be a lot of love with Ramsdale. He's connected with the fans in the way he winds up opposition fans, the way he really gets involved in celebrations and so on. But that doesn't mean that he is undroppable. It doesn't mean that he's the perfect keeper. And also, it doesn't mean that we should keep picking out every mistake David Raya makes because we like Ramsdale more. Raya's just off the back of a terrific game against Burnley at the weekend, where he made 2 really important saves. He was also very good with his distribution, great in the air with his collections, and the goal, he probably saves that if it doesn't take a horrible deflection. So look, my message here would be, Nick Ramsdale, stay off the air. And Aaron Ramsdale, get your head down, work on the training ground. You did loads of podcast interviews over the last couple of years. A lot of those clips are resurfacing now. And there's a lot of questionable things that have been said. I personally don't care about those things because I think it's a player being honest. However, you do wonder and I think it's also a player that is happy to talk to fans and is happy to give us those insights that we don't normally get. But I think whenever you've lost your place in the team, and there is a bit of a circus around the reasons why you've lost your place in the team, get your head down, work hard, and just try and win your place back. Because at this rate, if these things keep happening, we've seen how ruthless Arteta is with players when it comes to talking to the media and doing things that he doesn't like. So right now, it doesn't look good for Ramsdale in this sense, and I think it's a really ill-advised interview from his dad. And also, a parent giving an interview for a top-level sportsman saying that he's lost his smile. I'm not a big fan of that anyway. It's like, you don't want your parents speaking on your behalf. He's a grown man. He's a father himself now. Do the talking on the pitch and make the manager make a decision. And many of you will say he doesn't actually have the opportunity to do that. Arteta's made his mind up. That may well be the case, but talking to the media will only make it worse. The next big controversy is Gabriel Jesus. So he has travelled with Brazil. He has been included with the squad, and their medical team believe he'll be ready for their game on the 22nd, which is just over a week from today. Just over a week from today, next Wednesday, which means he will be playing a few days before our next game and flying back from Brazil, having missed 5 key games for us, including the Newcastle game. And if there was a player we needed against Newcastle, it was Gabriel Jesus. Now, I think every football fan collectively should be agreeing on this. After the VAR controversies, we can't guarantee it because of tribalism. But international football is a huge problem for clubs. The Gabriel Jesus, as I've just said, has missed 5 games. That was his second injury of the season. And he also missed a huge chunk of last season because he picked up an injury whilst away with Brazil. So he's a player that has had a huge impact on 2 seasons at Arsenal because of injuries. And we're now seeing him go away. Instead of continuing his rehab program at Arsenal, he has gone away with the intention of playing in just over a week. If he picks up any kind of injury, Arteta is going to be absolutely furious. But the other thing is, I think that could potentially lead to Arsenal going into the market for a striker in January. Because if there is a chance he picks up an injury, that is really, really dangerous for Jesus. And it also is one of those, if he isn't fully recovered and he plays, it does beg the question of how much can we actually rely on him? We keep saying the same about Thomas Partey, and I love Gabriel Jesus. I think he's incredible, and he's a player, if he was fully fit, I would never want to see him out of that Arsenal team. I just think he makes us better when he's in the team. The issue is, Thomas Partey also makes us better when he's in the team. But because of his injury record, we can't rely on him. And these are two players on huge wages. So this will be a time to sweat for Arsenal fans, because any kind of injury to Jesus, and that is him out for a considerable period of time, because we know what this period's like. We know how intense it is. We know how many games there are. So you miss 3 weeks, you're missing 6 games. And given that he's just missed 5, he missed the start of the season and missed about 6 games, we're talking about a player that could very quickly miss half a season. So we will all be hoping that it doesn't happen. But I think the key thing here is that international teams should not be allowed to call up and assess a player when a club has had them out for 5 games, and they have missed key matches. It wasn't like he went off injured against Burnley at the weekend and Arsenal were saying he's not ready to go. This is a player that's missed a big chunk of football. So flying him to the other side of the world, playing him in a very intense game is not what we want to see. And on more positive note, Norway have decided, because they've got a bit of common sense, not to call up Ødegaard, and they have left him at Arsenal to recover this week. They do hope he travels during the week to watch the match, but not to play in it, not to participate. And they will, but the update from Arsenal that seems to have come through John Cross, he has got a lot more reliable again, and was over the summer, is that Ødegaard has been out with concussion after someone hit him on the head with the ball right before the Newcastle game, which it does explain some of his, I guess, touch and go performances recently, where he just hasn't quite been at his best. But at the same time, it's great to know that it's nothing serious, and because there have been all sorts of rumors flying around social media. So to know that Ødegaard should be back for the Brentford game is good news for Arsenal. Finally, the last one is Victor Osimhen. So he's a player that I think a lot of European clubs will be after next summer. But the key thing here is there are only a couple of sides that A, need a striker, and B, can afford a player of his quality. And he's an interesting striker because he has got a pretty unpleasant injury record himself. He had an incredible season last year, but he is off the back of a 6-week layoff and hasn't played for Napoli. He missed their game against Union Berlin that I was at during the week, and I hope to have a bit of a scouting session for him. And he also missed the game at the weekend. So this is one that I think there will be a huge amount of interest in. He has given an interview saying the Premier League is the pinnacle of leagues. It's where all African players want to play. And he said that he doesn't support a team in the Premier League. However, he has had 2 tops. He's had a City top, or a United top. No one's ever had a City top. And a Chelsea shirt, which isn't a surprise given the strong African connection Chelsea have had through players like Jon Obi Mikel and Didier Drogba. Mikel has said that he wants to try and do that deal and broker it as an agent, which with the Nigerian connection, you can kind of understand. And then with Man United, they have just signed Højlund, who looks like a terrific player, so I can't see them breaking the bank on someone like Osimhen. But look, Arsenal do need a striker next summer, and the question is, do we go in January? Do we go next summer? I would prefer us to go for a midfielder in January, and someone like Osimhen is someone that I would really like to see us go aggressively for next season. I think that's a statement signing, and that's the real cream on top of an incredible team that Arsenal would have. And for me, he's someone... The interview for me was a very clear shot that he will be leaving Napoli. He will have a year left on his deal. Even with that, it won't be cheap. Napoli aren't an easy club to deal with. But look, Osimhen is a tremendous footballer and one that I think every club would love to have. But let's just watch this space, see what happens. And you never know, we could even dream of Mbappe. So thanks for joining. Please hit the like and subscribe button. And thank you all for watching. Have a great day. Thank you.